What's up, everybody? It's DJ Sue, Three Black Geeks, and we're here at Otakon 2019. And today we're talking music with my guest, Substantial. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. I'm good. How about yourself?
Doing great, doing great. You enjoying the con?
Yeah. No, it's great. It's I've been coming to Otakon for about 10 years now. So yeah, it's dope.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and jump right into it. So my first question with you is, how did you get approached by Nujabes, correct?
Yep. Yeah. So it was, I want to say, '99. I was a student at Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, New York. And one of my homies there, my man Tomo, he was from Japan. We used to kick it all the time. And so we exchanged numbers after working on some music. And before he headed back to Tokyo, while he was there, he was working at Nujabes' record store, Guinness Records, in Tokyo. And basically, Nujabes approached him and asked him if he knew of any dope rappers in New York at the time. And so, even though I wasn't from New York, I was residing there. He mentioned me, and he let him hear this mixtape that we were on, and Nujabes dug it, and so he asked for my contact. I didn't get any heads up though that he was calling me, and at the time, this is before everyone knew who Nujabes was. So I get the call, and I thought it was a crank call at first, so I almost hung up on him because when I heard the accent, I just some of my friends they're clowns, but then luckily I took him serious, and he asked for more material, and I just sent him a demo that I was working on for Def Jam Records at the time, because I was in talks with them, and I sent it to Nujabes. He liked it, and we just talked more, and I decided to go the independent route, and here we are.
That's awesome. So when you got approached for the Samurai Champloo soundtrack, basically, God, I know it was a lot of fun, but what was probably your most fun experience working on the soundtrack?
So to clear things up, technically, I'm not on the actual soundtrack. That's Shingo. I did do a lot of music with Nujabes, and then what was it? A couple years after the soundtrack came out, I flipped a mixtape called "Substantial versus Samurai Champloo," where I flipped a lot. So sometimes, because obviously all of us worked with Nujabes, so you'd be surprised how many times I get asked that question, because a lot of people just kind of, I'm a part of that legacy, even though I didn't work directly on the show. But the story of when I discovered that Nujabes was working on it, it was crazy. My nephew gives me a call, because my nephew's into anime largely because I put him on when he was younger, and he calls me one time. He saw the show on what was it, Cartoon Network or whatever, Adult Swim, and he was like, "What's the producer who did all the music on your first record?" And I was like, "You talking about Nujabes?" He's like, "Yeah. I could have swore I just saw his name in the credits of this show I watched." I'm like, "First of all, what's the show you watching?" So he gives me the name. Instantly, I email Nujabes and like, bruh, congratulations, number one. And number two, where were these beats when I was working on my album? You know what I'm saying? And so he's like, "Oh man, you're funny." And it was just super proud of him, man. Like, from high school age or whatever, I actually loved anime before that, but I didn't know it was called anime until I was in high school. And so one of my fantasies was to always do music for an anime. And so to see one of my homies doing it, you know what I mean? Like, I'm one of them people that it doesn't always have to be me. Like, if one of the homies is doing it, it's just as good. Like, it's a victory. A victory for one of us is a victory for all of us. So yeah, man, it was dope.
That's great, man. That's great. So now, I try to collect as much music from Nujabes as possible, anything he produced. I remember seeing your name in one of the I think, what was it? I think it was the High Collection or something. He put out like two collections. Hideout Collections. Thank you. That's what it was. The Hideout Collections. I remember I got Hideout Collection 1 and 2, and just solid beats all around, man. Really, really good stuff. And I remember catching what was it, Home Sweet Home. And like one of my friends, like from back home, he hit me up. He was like, I didn't know he was from here. Right. And so when I listened to it, I was like, oh snap, he is from here. Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So I gotta ask you, since you've worked, since you have worked with them in the past, have you ever been approached or at least reached out to Fat John or Force of Nature?
So not force of nature, but Fat John and I, we met for the first time at the first Nujabes tribute that we did in 2010 after he passed. And so John and I, like, we don't speak all the time, but we communicate and stuff. We talk music. Didn't necessarily do any tracks or whatever, but we definitely communicate. And I'm probably a lot closer to his partner, Pace Rock. You know what I mean? Yeah. But what was it? Outside of that, a lot of the other guys that came up in the scene, obviously, Shingo and I talk a lot, and then Uyama Hiroto, who plays sax on a lot of Nujabes' tracks. We keep in touch as well. So like a good amount of the hideout circle, all the MCs and stuff, like probably the guy I'm closest to is Funky DL. And Funky DL, like for a lot of the people who are fans of Nujabes and his collaborators, he's like the OG in terms of, I think, probably the first of us to work with Nujabes. You know, yeah.
That's good. That's good. Well, seeing that you're here at Otakon, there's actually another convention that takes place here around, let's see, I believe it was the week before last. It's called BlurCon.
Yes.
Now, if given the chance, would you come down for a performance or an appearance or whatever?
Oh, you're gonna love this answer. So I've actually performed at BlurCon every year they've had it, and this past year, I was actually asked to be music director. So I'm a part of the crew that helps to put on BlurCon now. So this past year we brought Samus, who's a big nerdcore act. She's super dope. Regardless of what type of hip hop you listen to, Samus is dope. So we brought her out. I did a little something last year, the last 2 years before we had the homie Asheru come out from the Boondock soundtrack. I love BlurCon. BlurCon, the way I describe BlurCon to anybody who's never been, it's like the Black Family Cookout or the Black Family Reunion with cosplay. Like, and that's the way I like to sum it up, you know what I mean? But it's super dope, you know?
Great, great. Well, listen, thank you very much for coming out to talk to us. We really appreciate seeing the hometown hero here.
Thank you, man. My pleasure.
No problem. You take it easy, okay?